Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to a new episode of our program Africa Today. My name is Aman Mukhtar, and we start as the Foreign Minister Badr Abdel Ati took part in a session on boosting the economic cooperation that is held in the South Korean capital Seoul as part of African-Korean ministerial meeting. The Foreign Minister reviewed the Egyptian vision to strengthen partnership between the Republic of Korea and the African states as a way for promoting sustainable development and enhancing mutual prosperity. Abdel Ati said that the African continent owns massive resources needed for sustainable development. He also added that a comprehensive approach is needed to tackle the challenges related to security, peace and development based on upgrading infrastructure, pushing industrializations forward and enhancing technology exchange. He said such an approach also needs support to adapt with climate change and reconstruction efforts in the post-conflict stages. Also, on Monday, Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdel Ati held talks with Executive Director and Head of the Economic Development and Cooperation Fund in the Korean Bank for Export and Import. During the meeting, Abdel Ati said he is looking forward to boosting existing cooperation frameworks with the bank to assist in achieving priorities of the Egypt 2030 agenda. He also stressed the importance of making the best use of technical and financing expertise offered by the bank, especially with regards to developing the capabilities of the private sector. He also reviewed Egypt's position as a regional manufacturing hub with strategic and infrastructure capabilities that allow it to become a regional center for exports to regional and international markets. For his part, the senior Korean official have praised the recent economic measures and structural reforms in Egypt. He also said such measures contribute to boosting financial stability and improving economic empowerment, social protection. He also said the Egyptian economy also has proven resilient in the face of escalating regional and international challenges. Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdel Ati confirmed Egypt's total support for Somalia's territorial integrity and sovereignty, as well as safeguarding its national institutions. This came during his talk with his Somali counterpart Abdessalam Abdi Ali on the sidelines of African-Korean ministerial meeting. The foreign minister reiterated the urgency of releasing the abducted Egyptian sailors and ensuring their security. Meanwhile, the top diplomat asserted Egypt's full rejection of any unilateral measures that could undermine the Somali territorial integrity or even threaten its sovereignty. The foreign minister also conducted the talks, confirming Egypt's condemnation of the attempts taken by the so-called Somaliland to inaugurate an embassy in the occupied Jerusalem, deeming it as a blatant violation of international law. The first ever Korea-Africa foreign ministers meeting have inaugurated in Seoul with the aim of enhancing the economic and also the global cooperation, and it gathers representatives from 50 African countries and 4 regional organizations to discuss ways to broaden the cooperation on economic and global challenges. Details in the following report.
South Korea is hosting its first standalone Korea-Africa Foreign Ministers meeting, bringing together representatives from 54 African countries and 4 regional organizations as Seoul seeks to deepen economic ties, diversify supply chains, and strengthen cooperation on global challenges. The 3-day gathering, running from May 31 to June 2 in Seoul, comes as governments worldwide race to secure critical mineral supplies and build more resilient supply chains amid growing geopolitical and trade uncertainties. The meeting is accompanied by a Korea-Africa Business Forum involving government agencies and private sector participants. Korea's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the conference focuses on expanding practical cooperation for shared prosperity and coordinating responses to challenges ranging from supply chain disruptions and climate change to development and security issues. The first session, titled Strengthening Economic Cooperation, Promoting Shared Prosperity and Sustainable Growth, reviews cooperation in trade, investment, infrastructure, science and technology, education, food security and supply chains, while exploring ways to expand economic engagement between South Korea and African economies. The second session, Joint Responses to Global Challenges, Korea-Africa Solidarity, discusses practical cooperation in development assistance, climate action, public health, peace and security, and people-to-people exchanges. The event marks South Korea's first foreign ministers' conference dedicated exclusively to Africa and follows Seoul's broader diplomatic push to diversify its partnership beyond traditional allies while expanding its role as what the government describes as a globally responsible state.
And to shed more light on this topic, we have the pleasure to have with us over the phone our dear guest, Her Excellency, Ambassador Sou'ad Shalaby, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good afternoon, Your Excellency.
Good afternoon.
Well, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Badr Abdel Ati, have emphasized the specific pillars during his speech before the Africa-Korea meeting, that is including the strengthening of the partnership and also the introducing a kind of comprehensive approach in order to deal with the current challenges. How do these pillar align with the Egypt's broader vision for the Africa 2063 agenda in the context of this South Korean partnership?
As you know, that the relationship between Egypt and Korea is very strong, and Egypt was one of the important countries that Korea depends on its relations with Africa, especially that Egypt is viewed as a primary gateway to the African continent, and South Korea always coordinates with Egypt, whether it is for this summit, the Foreign Affairs meeting, or in the future summit that will take place in 2029. So the relationship with Egypt is very strong, and it has signed agreements to upgrade Egypt's relations like digital e-commerce operations and trade and green energy. The two countries partnered in green car maintenance and electric vehicles. So the strategy for development and for partnership is there, and in the meeting that Foreign Minister Abdel Ati is attending now in Seoul, it's a Korea-Africa Foreign Ministers meeting, and it gathers delegates from 50 African countries. This is a very important high-level forum because it focuses on partnership, and it focuses on building stronger economic ties between Korea and Africa. It also secures critical mineral supply chains between Korea and Africa. It also presents a mutual prosperity aim for both Africa and Korea, because there are global geopolitical uncertainties that are happening in the world, especially that, for instance, digital innovation, the trade expansion. There has to be a response to the global challenges that the world is facing, and this is how the Korea-Africa meeting is taking place, is going to discuss with the delegates from all African countries.
Yes. Also, Your Excellency, Foreign Minister Abdulati, in his meeting with the Executive Director of the head of the Economic Development and Cooperation Fund in the Korean Bank for Export and Import, the Foreign Minister reviewed Egypt's position as a regional manufacturing hub with strategic capabilities that allow it to become regional center for exports to regional and international markets. How do you expect to translate this into strategic cooperation?
Yes, of course, it's a very good opportunity for Egypt, meeting these institutions, head of institutions, financial institutions in Korea, and also globally. And these meetings are aiming at putting Egypt as giving Egypt a role in expanding the investment portfolio with South Korea, with the expanding economic development with the Cooperation Fund, and also introducing areas that could be like digital transformation, like
Yes.
artificial intelligence and industrial localization projects.
Yes.
And these are very important for Egypt.
Yes. Your Excellency, given Egypt's unique position as a gateway between Africa and the Middle East, what concrete mechanisms can facilitate deeper South Korean industrial investment into Egyptian projects?
Well, attraction of investment, there has been a commitment of Korea for Africa to have to provide 14 billion in export financing. Also, there has been another commitment to increase its official development assistance to Africa to 10 billion by 2030. So Egypt will definitely be the gateway for Africa, and it will be considered as a partner due to the continent's, of course, relationship, whether it is with the Africa Continental Free Trade Zone or with the Agenda for Development with the African Union. So Egypt will definitely have a role in the future, especially that already there are technological expertise already from South Korea in Egypt, and there is partnership for joint responses to global challenges, and the challenges that the Africa is facing is the supply chain the disruptions, and of course the growing concerns over energy and food security, and this is going to be the solution to these problems will be definitely Egypt will have a role in this solution,
Yes.
especially in the future.
Yes, I thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your valuable information, Your
Thank you.
Excellency. Ambassador
Thank you.
Sou'ad Shalaby, former Assistant Foreign Minister. We really had the honor to have this phone with you. South Sudan actually is facing new sanctions after the UN Security Council have agreed the measure. The Council have decided to renew arms embargo on South Sudan for another year.
South Sudan is facing new UN Security Council sanctions. The sanctions include extending an arms embargo, travel bans and asset freezes. The 15-member council adopted Resolution 2829 by a 9-6 vote, with 6 abstentions with no votes against. China, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Liberia, Pakistan, Russia and Somalia abstained. The resolution extends the sanctions regime until May 31, 2027, and renewed the mandate of an expert panel assisting the South Sudan Sanctions Committee until July 1, 2027. The U.S., which drafted the resolution, argued that the measures remain necessary due to the political and security conditions in the East African country, and said progress in implementing a 2018 peace agreement had been limited. The U.S. Deputy Envoy to the UN told the Council that the lack of progress on the benchmarks and the continuing deterioration of the political and security situation remains concerning. A report by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the period between 2025 and 2026 had been the most difficult since the 2018 peace agreement was signed, citing stagnation and setbacks in key reform areas. The resolution requests a new UN assessment by April 2027 on progress toward benchmarks, including security sector reform, the formation of unified forces, disarmament efforts, and arms management. Several countries that abstained questioned the effectiveness of the sanctions. Russia said the measures were hindering implementation of the peace agreement and limiting South Sudan's ability to prepare for planned elections. South Sudan's representative also criticized the decision, saying their arms embargo limits the government's ability to protect civilians, secure borders, and respond to threats from armed groups. The representative urged the Council to heed calls from the African Union and regional organizations to lift the sanctions regime.
Well, with this, we come to the end of Africa Today. Now I leave you with a report on the Ebola virus, as 4 nurses who were being treated for Ebola caused by the strain of the virus have been discharged from a hospital in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
The rapid spread of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of the Congo has created a deeply alarming situation. The statement was made by the medical charity Doctors Without Borders. Speaking 2 weeks on from the outbreak being declared by the World Health Organization, Doctors Without Borders Deputy Director Dr. Alan Gonzalez said never before had so many cases been recorded so soon. His comments came as the WHO head Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus visited the eastern Congolese province of Ituri, the worst-hit area, to oversee virus containment efforts. There are now more than 1,000 suspected Ebola cases in the DRC Congo and at least 246 deaths. Neighboring Uganda has reported 9 confirmed cases and 1 death. 2 weeks after the declaration of the Ebola disease outbreak in Ituri province, the situation is deeply alarming. Doctors Without Borders stressed that the teams on the ground were witnessing a response that has not yet caught up to the rapid spread of the epidemic. Doctors Without Borders said that containment efforts and humanitarian aid deliveries were being delayed by major constraints, including border and airport closures. The WHO has repeatedly warned that ongoing conflict in DR Congo was also significantly hampering the Ebola outbreak response. Ebola viruses normally infect animals, typically fruit bats, but outbreaks among humans can sometimes start when people eat or handle infected animals. Ebola spreads through direct contact with bodily fluids of an infected person. It can also be transmitted by touching contaminated objects such as needles, bedding, or clothing. Patients with Ebola need to be isolated in hospital, with treatment involving managing symptoms such as help with breathing and fluid given directly into a vein to stop dehydration.